This week, gentlemen, the names on the marquee are going to be both Paddy the Batty Pimblett and Molly Meatball McCann, who both won over the crowd in London this past weekend at the O2 Arena for UFC Fight Night. Blades versus Aspinall. Just about everybody on the A side of this whole card were Brits, but of course both Paddy and Molly, who have become somewhat of a buddy cop duo, are kind of stealing hearts and winning fans every time they fight together on a card. So both of them finished their fights in the first round, and tremendous stuff. Mark, let me throw it over to you first. Kind of a unique start to our show with two fighters on the marquee. What is your reaction to both Paddy's and Molly's first round finishes?
Yeah, I'll just say first, obviously, second week in a row, we have a little bit of maybe a random feeling marquee. But again, we had a main event where we didn't get any result. Obviously, we'll get to that one in a minute. So looking down the card, I mean, these are the two that delivered. They had all the hype on them coming into this event. Like you said, they've become this duo that they're almost billed as. Like you see one, you see the other. I'm not sure we've had that many duos quite like this in MMA. They had the weight on their shoulders to carry this event, and there was a lot of other Brits on this card, other guys that we'll get to.
Yeah.
You had Jai Herbert, you had Muhammad Mukayev, you had Nathaniel Wood, you had Mark Jacasey. That was all prelims. I'm trying to think about the main card now. Who else we had? Well, Aspinall, he got hurt. But all those guys, yeah, they won their fight, Aspinall aside. But none of them did it in any kind of fashion that hooked the crowd. These two came out and delivered in every way that you could deliver. So you got to give them credit because the spotlight is on them. I don't know if I'm sold on the top-level talent of either one of them, and they're delivering anyway. So you got to give them credit. They deserve their credit. I guess we'll kind of do it one at a time here from this point on. So I'll do Paddy first. 3-0, 3 finishes. I mean, guy still hasn't lost a round in the UFC. You heard me correctly on that. He absolutely won round 1 of that fight. I don't know what these announcers
by the
were
way,
watching.
And I did misspeak before. I said they both had first round finishes. Paddy won his fight by submission in the second round.
Correct. Yeah, I don't know what these announcers were watching, given that round 1 to Levitt. He did a whole lot of hugging and nothing else. Paddy had like 10 good shots. He had a couple sub-attempts. I didn't even think that round 1 was a question. But then he gets it done again. He continues to deliver. Obviously, we know the competition hasn't been incredible. But Jordan Levitt is a skilled grappler, and for Paddy to take him out in the fashion that he did is a nice little statement. And Paddy has always been crafty at setting up submissions. Like, it's one of his calling cards from back in his Cage Warriors days. He's got some of the flying triangles, other crazy things, but the way that he slipped that arm under the neck in an almost like Darce position against the fence there and used that setup to take the back and then traps Levitt's arm as he's taking the back in the body triangle. I mean, I don't care how high level the opponent is. That is stupidly slick any way you want to look at it. So Paddy gets it done again, rocks the O2 again, does it in style, finishes in the strong suit of his opponent, hops on the mic, gives a fantastic promo of superstar Paddy, then shifts it into real guy Paddy talking about mental health. I mean, he really couldn't have done it better. You can't write it up much better for the way Paddy Pimblett's career continues to roll right now, as we have now maybe hit the point where he is going to fight someone fairly dangerous here. And I'll shift it over to Omar before I get to Molly. That way we break this up a little bit.
Yeah, let's do Paddy first. All right, Omar, give us your assessment of Paddy Pimblett's big win over, thus far, his toughest opponent on paper in Jordan Levitt.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch Jordan Levitt fight the way that he fought that fight, because when you've watched him in previous fights, he's definitely the aggressor. He's definitely a lot more active. And, Paddy was saying something leading up to the fight where he was talking about how this is a big moment. Jordan Levitt hasn't fought on anything other than Apex cards where there's nobody there. He hasn't fought on the big stage. He hasn't walked into a crowd. He hasn't definitely never been the bad guy when it comes to a fight. And so, Paddy was exaggerating, right? He was making light of it. And so, he's going to shit himself. You might see the first guy ever shit himself on there. He might have actually shit himself when he got up there. And he really, as far as I'm concerned, the way he fought, he shit the bed. That's not how he fights. I've never seen him fight like that in the 3 or 4 fights that he has in the UFC. And I really think the moment got to him. I think the opponent got to him, and I think it really did get in his head. And I just think he seized up. I think, he was in the first round especially, you could see he was just holding on. He was holding on because he wanted to win that round. He just wanted to he wanted to win more than he was in his previous fights. He was putting on a show and he was fighting. He was really doing something in those other fights. Here, it didn't seem like it was the same thing. Paddy was the one who was trying to put on a show, trying to put on a performance. And you could see it was they were in there for 2 different reasons. I am glad that Paddy got the sub. I called that second round sub, and it was beautifully done. I mean, if you look at Paddy's control on the ground, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Jordan Levitt didn't have any answer for it. His balance, the way that he was able to balance himself and not get sucked underneath Jordan Levitt in a lot of those rolls and
100%.
exchanges, I thought was absolutely fantastic. The reality isn't, and I kind of agree with Mark, I have no idea if we're ever going to see UFC gold around his waist. I think it's way too early to say that. I think it's too early to say that you'll never see it either. But as of right now,
Fair.
the skills that he shows, I think, are elite. I think there's a lot of guys that we see that are higher ranked than him that don't pull off a lot of the things that he does in the cage. So it'll be interesting to see if he can keep the momentum going and keep that kind of skill level up against guys of higher caliber. We might very well see Paddy with gold around his waist one day. Who knows?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was noticeable, too, how quick he would get up. Like, there was 4 or 5 times where Levitt had him hit the mat, and it was like, oh, maybe we're going to be down here. And then it was like, oh, no, we're not. He's already standing up. Like, he was standing up with absolute ease, which is also something that I'm sure had Jordan Levitt like, okay, what the fuck is going on? He just keeps standing right back up.
But why not adjust? That was the thing. It's not like Jordan Levitt doesn't know how to strike. Jordan Levitt is extremely durable when it comes to the striking. He's has a super dexterity in his legs. He does weird, crazy shit with his legs because he can, and he utilized none of it. He didn't strike. He didn't try to strike with Paddy at all. It just seemed like a weird.
I think that
like
fight's
weird
over
thing
even
to do.
faster if he tries to strike with Paddy. I don't rate Jordan Levitt striking.
I mean, it's not like Paddy the Baddy's got the best striking in the world either. The boy keeps his chin up and his hands down half the time.
I agree, but I don't think Levitt really has anything.
Yeah.
But also
don't know,
the
Mike.
way they
I mean,
fight, I think. What's that?
I was
gonna
saying
say,
I
where
would
do you
just given it
stand
a
on Levitt
shot.
striking?
I think that there is a disparity between the two of them. Maybe not necessarily in terms of striking acumen, but Paddy definitely has. He brings in more of an intensity in the stand-up game, more ferocity. I would say that Paddy probably had the edge in power for sure. I think that his intensity in there plays into that. So yeah, I kind of am leaning more towards Mark, that I think that the reason why Paddy seemed to really crank up the intensity in the striking game in this fight is because I don't think he felt that he faced that much danger from Levitt on the feet.
I agree.
But also, Levitt's strong suit is his jiu-jitsu, is his grappling. But Paddy also is very strong on the ground. So Paddy was like, let's go. Wherever this fight goes, I'm going to dominate this guy. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, it seemed interesting that that's his bread and butter because he seemed like he didn't know what to do once he hit the mat. It seemed like he had no plan on what to do with Paddy.
Who, Levitt?
Where to, yeah. Like, Paddy, once he got on the ground, he always seems to have some sort of path. He's trying to get something. It doesn't matter what's there, but he's trying to get something. The man was like, he
I
was
agree.
basically teabagging him in the middle of that roll exchange and somehow found, some kind of weird triangle. Like, regardless of whether he gets it or not, he's always seeming to try to go for something. Levitt didn't really seem like he was doing that and didn't seem like he knew where to go once he was in the guard. There must have been something that he felt while he was down there. Maybe he was worried too much about control and not about passing as much to kind of advance the position because he might have felt that Paddy was escaping those positions. Who knows? But from the outside looking in, it didn't seem like he knew where to go once he hit the mat.
Yeah, man.
All
right, let's shift.
I love that first point you made just real fast. I love Paddy's grappling because he is never a guy who's like, okay, this is where we are now. It's always like, okay, how can I shift this immediately? What can I do to threaten to shift us over here, whatever way. I love watching him grapple.
Same.
I love watching Paddy fight, man. Critiques aside, in terms of whether or not he's going to make it into the upper echelon of the division or whether or not he's ever going to hold a title, I love watching Paddy Pimblett fight, man, because Paddy Pimblett brings action. When Paddy Pimblett is in a cage, locked in there with one other man, there is danger, and that is why we tune in, and that is why we watch, and that is why we watch him. And the fans love him for a good reason, and that is the reason. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. Let's shift focus over to Molly McCann, the on the marquee fighter this week. The women's flyweight division, she defeated Hannah Goldie by TKO with a spinning back elbow of beauty, followed up with some punches. The official time came at 3:52 of the very first round. Omar, let's start with you this time. What was your assessment of the meatball winning in style?
I am so obsessed with that girl's spinning back elbow. Like, it's so good, and she makes it look so easy, which is, I think, the worst part. She's just against the cage, and I'm just gonna gently step right over here. Whoops, there's the elbow, and it's so crazy to see that people just allow her to enter their space like that. And Hannah Goldie just didn't do anything, just sort of just stayed there against the cage and just let Molly just let lightning strike twice. The only reason I didn't pick this girl to win by TKO is because I don't think she was going to knock somebody out with a punch. I did expect if she landed another spinning back elbow, she'd be able to do it. But who the fuck lands 2 spinning back elbows back to back in fights? It just doesn't happen. But apparently it does. Mm-hmm. And so kind of feel dumb now having picked the decision. But Molly McCann with the elbow. And she even hit up The Rock and was like, so I think we're going to call this the people's elbow now if you're cool with that. And he's like, shit's all yours, girl. You can take it now. Run with it. It's all yours. So gotta love Molly McCann, man. She's another good time. She was wasted by the end of that night. But fantastic 100%. Fantastic time.
All right, Mark, you're in. Give us your assessment of the meatball's spinning back elbow finish.
Yeah, I was telling everyone that she would win that fight by decision. Like, people were asking me, should I bet the under in this fight? You think she finished there? I'm like, no, it's a decision. It's a decision. But apparently you put Molly McCann in front of an English crowd and she turns into a knockout artist. Like, it's unbelievable how good she has looked in these 2 fights in the O2. Like, not as if she's bad in the other ones. She's not. But this is unreal. Like, she has become must-see TV. Her hands are so good. She throws from great angles, which she needs to do to make up for the reach disadvantage that she usually has. This fight, finally, she did not have one. And then, like Omar said, she lands another spinning back elbow to start the finishing sequence. And in the first, whatever it was, like 3-4 minutes of the fight, like, it's unreal. And then she runs out of the cage. She bullies her way past security. She jumps into Dave Portnoy's arms. He's carrying her through the crowd. I mean, how's Dave Portnoy doing right now with the first 2 fighters ever that Barstool sponsors are Paddy and Molly? It's working out pretty damn good thus far. Later on, she's back.
Did you hear what he said about how he doesn't understand them when they talk, that he gets maybe every 8th word that comes out of their mouth, and he's still like, yeah, I'm on their team.
I did. It was great. Then she's back in the cage later with Paddy. Like Omar said, she's half a bottle of Howler Head deep. Like, she's just a star. Like, it's you can't not pay attention to her at this point. I don't know if we have seen a female with star power like she has, who has a fighting resume as low, I don't want to say as low, but as non-elite as her fighting resume. But somehow she has that, like, star captivity about her. And it's Molly's world right now.
What other woman can you think of that has this kind of charisma in MMA? Because even in the elite, Ronda was Ronda, but Ronda always had, kind of the, I
would say Joanna.
Yeah, I guess so. There's something crazier about Molly, though, than from Joanna, though.
Yeah,
Molly feels...
It's a different kind of charisma, for sure.
Joanna never really seemed to have, like... I guess the way that Conor kind of has Ireland, you know what I mean, or had Ireland. That's a whole other thing. It didn't seem like Joanna had that same thing, but it does seem like Molly has, like, all the Scousers on her. You know,
she said she's never seen a UK crowd get behind a woman the way they've gotten behind her, which is pretty cool.
That's
Yeah,
really
dude,
cool.
I really think she's swimming into some uncharted territory when it comes to the women's history of MMA. I don't really think we've seen somebody kind of strike the popularity or the that little lightning in a bottle over there in the UK the way that she has. I think she's very unique in that sense, especially when you pair up the two of them. We've never seen like a Million Vanilli in MMA.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think the skills match up. Like, if she ever is in the top 10, I will literally faint. Like, I will be. I can't even explain how shocked I'll be if she's ever in the top 10.
I'll
But-
tell you this: Lauren Murphy just beat the shit out of Misha Tate. So things happen, my guy. Things happen.
Yeah, I guess.
Hey, man, people can change.
Yeah, and to be
all
fair,
can
in
change.
my opinion, she looked better in this fight than she looked in her last fight. She looked a lot crisper in this fight. Her strikes before the spinning elbow actually were really nice. She threw some really nice counter hooks, some nice overhands. I mean, the girls, if she now has the resources to properly train, and I said this about Paddy when in fight one. Now that these guys get paid, right? They're getting these bonus checks. Fucking Drake just got $3 million off of them. They getting rollies and all this other shit, right? They're living a certain lifestyle now that's very different from before. And it's not to say that they're still not hungry, because there's things that I'm assuming they want to accomplish, belts and whatever else. But now they have the ability. Molly's got a whole new set of teeth. I don't know if you saw that shit.
I was waiting to
You know
say
what I'm
that.
saying? She's got a whole new set of teeth. The quality of life is just going up. And so if you improve the quality of life and you improve their accessibility to high-level training, high-level strength training, and all this other stuff, if they're good at it, if they can improve, I mean, that's the way to do it. And we might see some real gains from these guys in the next
Fair point.
few years or whatever else.
All right, let's talk about where these two winners go from here. Let's stay with Molly McCann right now. Women's flyweight, Mark, put on that matchmaker hat. Give us a name. What would you do with Molly next?
So first off, I saw Ariel Helwani say that he thinks the logical next step is to put them both on the MSG card together in November, and I could not agree more with that statement. I think you absolutely put them both on that card. As for Molly, I thought her call out of Antonina Shevchenko was perfect. I don't want to rush her up the ranks because of everything we just discussed. I want to let her try to grow and at least maybe hit a new level. So I want to take it somewhat slow. And I think Antonina Shevchenko, that is a perfect next small step up. And I would love to see Molly's aggressive push forward style against that distance management Muay Thai that Shevchenko brings to the cage.
Oh, but she also called out Miranda Maverick.
Maverick
Which is a little
called
back
out
and
her.
forth.
Maverick called
Oh,
out
Maverick called out her?
Yeah. Like nicely. She said,
Personally,
like,
that's...
we both ended our fights with elbows. Let's decide who's the best at
okay.
it or some shit like that. I'd be down for that too.
Okay.
That seems harder, but not terribly hard. I guess somewhat similar. I'd be down for either one.
Omar.
And then, we're going to do one-on-one? Go.
Well, that is my pick, though. That is my pick. Miranda Maverick for Molly McCann. Stylistically, I think that fight is fantastic. Miranda Maverick presents some challenges, especially when we talk about the ground game. She's not a ground specialist, but she does know how to take it to the ground and nullify, people coming forward at her. If Molly McCann could stop her, though, I think that's a good feather in her cap.
Yeah, for sure. Was it against Maverick that McCann had said, like, I'll fuck you whatever you want to be fucked?
Yes, that was Maverick. Who do you think, just quick before we go to Paddy, who do you think
Fantastic.
is a tougher matchup for Molly? Shevchenko or Maverick?
Oh, Maverick.
Yeah?
Same.
I think because Maverick has more of an ability to sort of meets muscle with muscle.
That's fair. My brain wanted to say Maverick right away, but then I was like, you know what? I could also see Shevchenko find a way to kind of make her look silly because Molly just can't really touch her that much. But
the thing is yeah, Shevchenko has a thing about, she uses a lot of distance, a lot of kicks and stuff like that. But the reality is there never has really seemed to be a ton of power behind it. And Molly seems like one of those women that's more than willing to take something to give something back. And I really think the power differential in that fight is significantly different.
Yeah, I'd rather see Shevchenko for her, personally. I think it's more winnable.
Okay, let's move on to Paddy the Baddy. Mark, take this one first. Where are you going with Paddy Pimblett?
It's really interesting now. I think we have hit the point where it's like you could do another step or you could do a jump now. Where I have him ranked, the guys who are around him kind of are like Jamie Malarkey, Michael Johnson, Mark Jacasey, Joe Lozon, and so on. I've actually mentioned Lozon in the past as someone who I thought would be a really interesting opponent for him. Maybe that ship has sailed now with everything that's been going on with Joe, unable to get to the cage. But a guy who is really similar to that type of style matchup, granted he is more of a jump, kind of above the level of who I just said, is a Jim Miller.
Oh, fuck
If you want to go full-on test Paddy time, I think Jim Miller is a great choice. The only thing I will say is I don't know if Paddy has already hit a point of popularity that you can't risk putting him against an old guy. That, like, you have to put him against another young guy just in case he loses so that that young guy can continue to run with his hype, as opposed to Jim Miller just squashing the hype and remaining Jim Miller. You know what I mean? So, you know, like, I don't know who would be like, this just popped in my head, but like a Terrence McKinney. So then you could be like, oh, man, Terrence McKinney, young guy coming up. You know, just like some other young dude. But perfect world, if you want to really go for it, I'd love to see him and Jim Miller in there.
Oh, man, Jim Miller. What a tough test that would be.
Yeah, goddamn.
Omar, what do you think?
Fight. I don't want it. I don't want it.
Why do you hate it? Because you think it's too tough
because
for
I
Paddy?
think Jim Miller would fucking murder Paddy Pimblett, and I'm not prepared
You do?
for that
You
right
think?
now.
You think Jim Miller is that much better than Paddy?
I think when it comes to the ground game, the thing for me, the thing that separates the two of them by margins more than skill is the experience. That experience in the cage, the shit that just happened to leave it, where we talked about, you know, the moment and this, that, and the other. Jim Miller is not playing none of that. That's a non-factor. Jim Miller doesn't care about none of that shit. Jim Miller shows up, he's gonna show up, and I just think that's a rough fight for Paddy, especially with all this momentum that's going up. And to be fair, as much as we love Jim Miller, I feel like in the public, when we talk about pay-per-views now, because he's talking about being on pay-per-views and stuff like that, I feel like Paddy will be the more popular one between the two of them. And it just seems like it just wouldn't, the way I feel like it would mean something for us, it might not mean as much for his career as a whole, because people are there to see Paddy and not Jim. I still think you should put him in there, kind of like Mark was saying, with somebody younger, somebody who's kind of up on the same journey as he is, and you know, somebody who's also still on the rise, somebody who's above the rankings from him, but still not a Jim Miller. My pick is Claudio Puelles, I believe is his name.
That's funny. I just was looking at young guy options because I threw out McKinney before, and right away I was like, "Ooh, Puelles makes sense."
Yeah, Claudio Puelles is the guy that I want to do. He's I think he's from Peru, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But he's a good striker, man.
That'd be some grappling exchanges too.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good striker. He's a good grappler. He's definitely well rounded, and I think he just beat the brakes off. Clay Guida. Yeah, just beat the whole break off of Clay Guida. I think he got the same two submissions, right?
The fuck out of Clay Guida, yeah.
He knee-barred the last two guys that he fought.
2 in a row, yep.
So there's hype there. There's definitely something you can build up on there, especially when we talk about the grapplers and Paddy Pimblett being the grappler that he is. I think it's a great fight. I think that's a real test, at least in my opinion, for what's happening right now.
What if you got like the winner of Dober and Rafael Alves?
Well, Dober's an even bigger step than either one we just said, no?
Yeah,
Dober's a
I like that matchup
killer,
though.
man.
That's a fun matchup.
Yeah, it's not terrible if he.
Dober's a pit bull.
I don't know if they jump him that far that quick.
Okay,
but
what about
Dober? Is like the kind of guy. I mean, maybe I'm wrong to say this, but like I was gonna say, he's the kind of guy who's like, he's been near those rankings and he's still in the whatever he'd be now, 20, 25-ish range, who isn't like a death sentence type guy. You know what I mean? Like, he is a beatable guy. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, some of those guys,
I do.
you're like, oh my god, that guy's so dangerous. And I feel like you don't quite say that about Drew Dober.
It's just funny you say that because as soon as you say that, I look over and it says Terrence McKinney TKO, and I just imagine Terrence just with a nice tear on his face right now. Just
Yeah.
When do you think they're ever going to match him with Ilia Topuria, who he had beef with not too long ago? And Topuria's at 155 now.
Yeah, I don't know if he's really staying there. I still have been waiting to find out what Topuria's actual deal is here. But Topuria is significantly better than everyone we've said so far.
I know. I'm kind of kidding. I was about to allude to the death sentence fighter again.
Yeah, I'm not risking that one yet. Paddy's got to prove some more before I'm taking that risk.
I agree, but I feel better about it. I feel better about it now than I did the 2 fights ago when we first started talking about it.
Same.
So,
Ilia Topuria, 4 of his last 5 fights have ended not by TKO, but by knockout.
Yeah.
That man is no joke. Okay, let's move on in the interest of time. We literally just got done with the marquee. And,
wow,